Dude, what are you doing? Nothing, man. I'm just trying to make this video. What's your problem? I think you're being dumb. Like, no one's gonna think this is funny. You're just being weird. Yeah, but I like being weird, so why don't you lighten up? I mean, really, what is your problem? I hate to see you make a fool out of yourself like this. Like, really, what are you doing? You should just go ahead and do your thing. Like, I don't even understand. What are you trying to do? Hey everybody, it's Jesse, and I'm back again. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a video for you guys about self-talk, right? That little voice in your head that can make a big difference. And it's a topic that, for some people is really uncomfortable and makes some people kind of squeamish to talk about. But I think that if we're honest with ourselves, we can kind of see that, it's something that, particularly in stress management, is especially important and is definitely worth our time and attention. And so I wanted to start off with something that I thought would be attention grabbing. And if you've ever had a conversation like this with yourself, then you know that you can either be your very own best friend, or at times you can be your very worst enemy. And so as we get into this video on self-talk, we're going to look at some different things, kind of think about that little voice in your head maybe in a different way, and hopefully gain some new perspective on self-talk. So in an effort to kind of kick this off or whatever, I'm going to ask you guys a series of questions. And as I ask these questions, I want you to just kind of, be honest with yourself and think about it from your perspective. Just think about what sorts of things come to mind when I ask you these questions, and maybe. And so, where this all starts is we have to think about, our own ideas about what kinds of people talk to themselves. When I go into classes or I work with clients, a lot of times they'll tell me, it's people who are really stressed, or, people who are really lonely, dealing with difficult feelings. I got to tell you, the most common answer that I hear is that, it's crazy people that talk to themselves. I have students who have said, it's crackheads, it's crazy old ladies who have 50 cats, or something like that. And those, while they may be true, definitely don't show the whole picture. When we look at this thing, we can kind of see that there are lots of different people who talk to themselves in lots of different ways. And when I talk about self-talk, I just want to be real clear. I'm not necessarily saying the kind of self-talk where you have the full-blown argument with yourself like I did at the beginning of this video. Maybe what your positive self-talk looks like is just you're standing in front of your closet and you're trying to, just decide what outfit you're going to wear, or maybe you're game planning for your day. And so when I talk about self-talk, it's not just things that are out loud, although that definitely qualifies. It can also just be that internal dialogue, or that little thought that's kind of running through your head, and all of those things count as self-talk. And so we have to get away from this stigma or this stereotype that all self-talk is negative, because in order for us to, kind of use this in a positive way, especially with stress management, the first and probably the most important step is just to acknowledge that we're doing it in the first place. All right. So question number 2, do you talk to yourself? Maybe the answer is no. If so, you're probably in denial. But if the answer is yes, I want you to think for a minute about the sorts of things that you say to yourself. Are you being positive with your self-talk? Are you being negative? Is it working for you? Usually in classes when I ask this question, there'll be a couple of students here or there who'll be like, oh no, I don't do that, that's for weirdos, that's not me, whatever. And usually I like to take that as a unique challenge and opportunity to prove them wrong. And I've got some real good examples for you to think about. Maybe you're somebody who plays a lot of video games, and if you've ever been playing a video game and you're not on a headset or anything, but you're in the middle of a video game, and all of a sudden you find yourself talking to that television screen or that game monitor, then really, the person that you're talking to, no matter what boss you're fighting or what it is you think you're doing, really the person that you're talking to is yourself. Or another one, I have some students and some clients who, maybe have a little bit of that road rage, and I can pretty easily convince them that they're probably talking to themselves, because if you've ever screamed in your car through a closed window into a car that has another closed window, then really the person that you're talking to is yourself, because no one can hear you, and even in the safe space of your car, you're still doing that self-talk. And so for a lot of us, we are kind of in denial about whether or not we do this thing. And the reason for that is really simple. We have this idea that if we talk to ourselves, then there's something wrong, and that's just not always the case. And so if you are one of those people who said, yeah, I do this sometimes. I have a lot of brave students who will speak up, and they'll, share whatever it is that, is bouncing around inside of their head or will come out of their mouth. Then, they'll share things, and they'll tell me, maybe I'm going into work and I've got a tough shift, and I kind of need to plan like how I'm going to do it. Or, probably for a lot of you, you don't feel like doing your schoolwork or going into school or work on a certain day, but you have to kind of talk yourself into doing it. You give yourself a pep talk, or you think about the consequences of not doing what it is that you're supposed to do. And all of those things definitely count as self-talk, and it can be really helpful. Question number 3. Do the things that you say to yourself control how you feel about things? And again, maybe your answer is no. But again, if we look at this, if we think about it a little bit deeper, we can kind of see some examples of how maybe there have been times where that voice in your head has been that cute little dog on the left, and maybe there are some other times where that little voice in your head isn't so little, and it's a lot more like that monster. So I want you to think about this for a minute. I want you to imagine for a second you're at work, right? And you're dealing with one of the most common stressors or triggers that I hear time and time again. You're dealing with a lazy coworker, and they just are constantly telling you what to do, even though they're not your boss. And so as you're dealing with this stressor, if the first thought that goes through your head is, oh my goodness, that lazy SOB, he's doing it again. I can't stand when he, tells me what to do. I can't stand when he's just sitting around and telling me what I need to do. And you just kind of get yourself all worked up. Then what you've really done is you've taken an ordinary stressor, which for most people is going to be stressful, and you've kind of kicked it up a notch, right? So you've taken that stress to a whole nother level, and the thing that's doing it is that little voice in your head. Or maybe the first thought that runs through your head is, you know what? This guy isn't worth my time. I'm not going to let him get to me. I'm just going to do my job. I know who my boss is. And if my boss, my manager, isn't telling me something different, then I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to ignore his lazy butt, because you know what? He's just not worth it. It's not worth my time. I'm not going to let this get to me. And if you are able to take that other route, right, if you're able to kind of use that positive self-talk, then what you've done is you've taken what is a stressor and you've just minimized it, right? You've kind of learned how to get past it. And so that voice in your head absolutely chooses for us, which direction do we go? Are we going to let that person get to us? Are we going to let them trigger us? Or are we going to take it in another direction? And are we going to decide, for ourselves that, you know what, this isn't all that. I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to have a good shift, no matter what. Question number 4. Does talking to yourself help or hurt your ability to deal with difficult feelings? And I don't know whether or not you guys watch The Simpsons or not, but it's one of my favorite TV shows, one of my favorite cartoons. And if we look at Homer here, I think that, there are some of you who might just be able to relate to this. There have been times where, maybe that little devil's on your shoulder and he's telling you, oh yeah, go ahead and call off today, or I don't want to deal with this person, or, they're not going to get away with that, or whatever, that voice is. And then your conscience kind of kicks in, and the little angel pops up on the other shoulder and says, "Oh wait, but wait a minute. You still got to get that paycheck, or you've got to deal with those consequences." And when we look at our positive self-talk, then the real answer in this question is, does talking to yourself help or hurt? Well, honestly, it depends. Am I going to pay attention to the little devil on the one shoulder, or am I going to pay attention to the... So for me, the little devil on the one shoulder is laziness, or taking the easy way out. There are times when maybe I don't want to get out of bed, or I don't want to shoot a video, or usually I like teaching class, and so going into work is easier. But if there's something that I really need to do, there are times where that little voice in my head is just trying to convince me that maybe I don't have to do it. It's not that important. And it just kind of is talking me out of doing something that I need to do. And so it's those points where I have to check in and say, whoa, wait, hold on, that's not what I'm trying to hear today. And I have to go to the other side, right? So I have to look at this other side, and this other side is my little angel, or as I like to think of them, kind of like the little cheerleader. So there are times where all I really need is I just need a little pep talk, right? And so I have to get out my imaginary pom-poms and put on that cheerleader outfit. That's a nice mental image for all of you guys. But if you can just imagine, getting out that cheerleader's outfit, and here we go, Jesse, here we go. Yeah, right? And so you can cheer yourself on. You can use that positive self-talk to really help you deal with whatever difficult feelings that it is you're having. Maybe it's anxiety and you're worried about a test. So if you sit down to that test and you start to think to yourself, you know what, I got this, I'm going to do the best I can and live with the results, then that's definitely going to help you to deal with that anxiety. But if instead what you do is you listen to that other, little voice in your head, and you give in, you sit down to that test, and the first thought that you have is, oh my God, I'm going to fail, I didn't study, this is going to go poorly, then all of a sudden, again, your slightly difficult feelings now are just ratcheting up. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and you're just kind of talking yourself into a bad place. And the same thing happens anytime that we need confidence for anything. So maybe for some of you, you're athletes and you're about ready to go into that big game. Can you talk yourself up? Can you, look at the bright side of things, look at the opportunities rather than the difficulties? Or maybe in a job interview situation, you walk in and you say, you know what, I'm the man for the job, I'm the woman for the job, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna do this, you know what, Jesse, you got this. And when I listen to that little voice in my head, it seems like not only can I deal with my difficult feelings a little bit better, or manage my stress a little bit better, but then things usually turn out the way that I want them to. And so in order to be successful, I really have to, pay attention to that voice in my head and decide, am I going to listen to the angel, or am I going to listen to the little devil? And for all of us, it's a choice, right? And so I think for anybody that's really honest with themselves, that both sides are always talking, and you just have to decide, who is it you're going to listen to, who is it you're going to pay attention to, and how are you going to use this to your advantage? Question number 5. Could you use self-talk to be more successful, and if so, how? And this is really what it all comes down to. The idea behind, mastering that little voice in your head is all about getting what you want out of life. Whether it's beating a video game, getting a job, maybe it's asking out a boyfriend or girlfriend, trying to get whatever it is that you're looking for out of life. How do we use that little voice in our head to be more successful? So really, in the end, it comes down to, what is it that you want? What are you trying to do? What are your goals? If, for example, some of us, like myself, have had anger management problems in the past, maybe you can use that little voice to, convince yourself to not snap back at somebody, and cuss them out, or, maybe it's convincing yourself to not resort to violence in a situation. And I know that's kind of extreme, but I have had clients and students who, have had the urge to smack somebody, or, to tell them exactly what's up. And that's definitely, not something that we want to do if we want to be successful, because the consequences of that just, in the long run are just not worth it. But maybe what it is that you're dealing with is anxiety. And so, you have to talk yourself up. You have to let, yourself know that, hey, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. I've had some clients who, just come up with a mantra, and a mantra is just a phrase that you kind of repeat to yourself over and over. And when they are, meeting somebody new or going through a difficult situation that might make them anxious, then they just have to remind themselves, I'm okay, I'm safe, everything's going to be fine, and they just repeat these things over and over to themselves. Or maybe what you're dealing with is sadness. And so, in an effort to be more successful when you're dealing with sadness, you just have to, maybe remind yourself that, it's just one day, and whatever it is that you're dealing with will pass. This too shall pass, and our feelings are just visitors. They come and they go. And so you look at that feeling, you have it, you deal with it, but then, you move past, and you let it go, you let it slide off your skin. And so, again, we really need to kind of, first of all, acknowledge our self-talk. We really need to, acknowledge that it is controlling how we feel about things. No matter how much you say someone makes you mad, it is that voice in your head really that's doing it for you. And then we decide, which voice are we going to pay attention to? Are you going to, make a good choice today and listen to that, little angel on your shoulder? Or are we going to give in to temptation, and are we going to do something that we might regret later? So I just really encourage all of you to pay attention to that little voice in your head. It's the most important voice that you'll ever hear in your entire life. I really want you to think about the relationship that you have with yourself, and how you talk to yourself really does matter. It really does make a difference. So I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for watching, and that's it.